Tonight, jailed for life, the rapist police officer David Carrick. In sentencing, the judge said the former Met armed officer took monstrous advantage of women, but also commended the bravery of his victims for coming forward.
It's to deliver some closure, certainly for me, but hopefully for the other victims as well. And given his age, I think he'll be in there, possibly, might not even come out.
Also ahead, suspected murder-suicide at Epsom College. A gun found at the scene did belong to Emma Pattinson's husband. The couple were found dead, along with their 7-year-old daughter. Plus, the Londoner who donated his stem cells travels thousands of miles to meet the woman whose life he saved. And Stella McCartney gets a gong at Windsor Castle and pays tribute to fashion legend Vivienne Westwood.
She was just epic, you know, for me personally a huge inspiration, so irreverent, massively powerful in the sustainable conversation for fashion, a real fighter.
Good evening. His crimes were unspeakably evil. One of the country's most prolific sex offenders was handed 36 life sentences today. David Carrick used his power as a serving Met police officer to carry out a catalogue of violent sex attacks on 12 women. At his sentencing today, the judge commended his victims for their bravery in coming forward, saying they've been subject to the most degrading and inhuman treatment. Mags Martell reports.
Okay. Well, allow you to get some clothes.
What is it you're searching for?
This was the moment police finally arrested the police officer.
This is the allegation that's been made to us, okay, sir?
There's no necessity.
He's one of Britain's worst sex offenders.
I've only been a police officer for 20 years.
Right, David.
Do you want me to come naked like this?
No, just understand you're under arrest.
As PC David Carrick rose up the ranks of the Metropolitan Police,
Right.
he was also a serial rapist, attacking at least 12 women. One of his victims was a fellow officer who spoke to ITV News anonymously.
I'm pleased, hopefully it's to deliver some closure, certainly for me, but hopefully for the other victims as well. To put him away, I mean, I never had contact with him after I was attacked. However, he was still serving in the same police force that I was serving in, and now, of course, the chances of ever bumping him into him at work has gone. So it's almost like a sense of relief.
Carrick's crime numbers are shocking. 85 separate offences, 71 sexual assaults and 48 rapes, all carried out with the protection of his police badge.
Behind a public appearance of propriety and trustworthiness, you took monstrous advantage of women drawn into intimate relationships with you. You brazenly raped and sexually assaulted many women, some you barely knew. You behaved as if you were untouchable.
The judge then jailed the police officer for 32 years. In court, David Carrick showed no emotion as he was given his long prison term. The judge even noted how he'd shown no remorse for his crimes. He'll be almost 80 years old before he's considered for release. But also in the dock, the reputation of the Metropolitan Police, who were warned 9 times about Carrick's behaviour. His sentencing today came with an apology from the top.
We in policing have failed. He should not have been a police officer. There were many signs that we should have joined together. He should have been rooted out during his career as a police officer. It's upsetting to be stood here talking about this, and I apologise again to the victims, and indeed I apologise to the women of London.
But outside Southwark Crown Court, an acknowledgement there may be even more victims.
Our investigation does not stop here, however, and we've set up a special reporting portal to allow people to continue to share information with us. As a serving police officer, David Carrick has brought shame on the profession and was not fit to wear the uniform.
We know there are victims of other rape and serious sexual offences out there, and that many of you may be worried about being believed or whether you will ever see justice done. We understand these concerns and want to reassure you that we are doing everything that we can to improve how these offences are handled, and we are determined to see justice done for more victims of violence against women and girls.
Police everywhere, safety nowhere.
And for the duration of this hearing, a protest by women against rape.
finally it's coming out just how extensive this is inside of the Metropolitan Police, that it's harbouring rapists and racist cops. It's harbouring cops who feel that because they have a gun or they have a uniform, they have a right to trash us, to target us, and to make our lives absolute hell.
Carrick has now had his day in court, but on the reputation of the Metropolitan Police, the jury is still out.
Rags, you were in court today, and there could be more cases, couldn't there?
Yeah, unfortunately, David Carrick is not the first and unlikely to be the last. You just have to go back 2 years to the tragic rape and murder of Sarah Everard at the hands of PC Wayne Couzens, and a warning today from the Home Secretary that more shocking cases involving police officers may emerge. Suella Braverman urging forces to double down on their efforts to root out corrupt officers.
All right, Rags, thank you. Well, joining us now is Ruth Davison, who is director of the domestic abuse charity Refuge. Ruth, thanks so much for coming in to talk to me this evening. Your reaction, first of all, to David Carrick's sentence, 30-year minimum, 36 life terms. Is it enough still?
It's a strong sentence, but no, it's not enough. The reality is this man should never have been in the police, and yet he was able to perpetrate these crimes against multiple women, 12 we know, over almost 2 decades. Those lives we heard today, victims whose lives are irretrievably damaged. So I don't think it's strong enough, no. And I think fundamentally the problem is far wider than David Carrick. It's the culture that protected and enabled him when he was a police officer.
Well, that was it. We saw the Met Commissioner, Sir Mark Rowley, today outside court saying, you know, the warning signs were missed, 9 opportunities that they had. You know, he said policing had failed. The judge as well said that Carrick behaved as if he was untouchable, and he pretty much was for almost 2 decades, wasn't he? It goes to the root of the problem, doesn't it? It's about trust with the police. How does it begin to be repaired?
Yeah, trust with the police is at an all-time low. Already, the women that Refuge works with, only around 1 in 5 will want to report to the police. That's obviously far, far worse if your perpetrator is a police officer themselves. So I think there is a long way for the Met to go to restore public confidence and trust, particularly amongst women. They are saying there are 2 to 3 cases of this kind coming for the next few months. Some of that sentencing won't be handed down till 2025. How on earth can we start to have confidence unless they also bring in immediate actions, like the immediate suspension of any officer who is under suspicion or have allegations against them in relation to domestic abuse or sexual offences?
Now, Ruth, I know Sir Mark Rowley said he's going to review past misconduct cases. Today, the Home Secretary expanded the terms of an inquiry into high-profile offences committed by Met police officers. But we know inquiries, recommendations, they take so much time, don't they? When it comes to how women are treated, whether it is the police, whether it's other institutions, is it a societal problem?
It is a societal problem. And in the Met, there is a specific problem. Over 1,000 historic cases now being re-reviewed, several hundred new cases coming to light. And today, Herts Police saying we think there are more victims just of David Carrick who still need to come forward. But yes, it's a societal problem. We don't treat domestic abuse or violence against women and girls as the serious crime that it is. There was an allegation against David Carrick before he even joined the police, and it was dismissed as a domestic incident with no further action taken. He should never have been in the police force. And if we as society don't start to take this seriously as a crime, then it is not going to change.
And Ruth, well, something else that the judge pointed out today, and also we heard the CPS saying as well, that it is not easy for victims in these cases to come forward, and the victims in this case were praised for their bravery in doing so, and that's how we know the full extent of David Carrick's crimes. There might be more to come, we don't know. But how difficult is it for survivors to speak out in the current culture, would you say?
It's incredibly difficult to speak out, and I cannot praise the bravery of those women enough. It's only because of them that we have any justice at all in this case, but all the work is on the victims, as usual, to come forward. I would say this evening, Refuge is here. I know David Carrick said to people, no one will believe you. And in fact, he was right. People didn't believe him and there was a culture that protected him. I know that is changing in the Met. But if you don't feel confident to go to the Met, please come to Refuge. We will believe you and we will support you. And we have a 24-hour, totally free helpline open now for you to call.
All right, Ruth Davison from Refuge, thank you very much for talking to me. Thank you. A homicide investigation has been launched over the deaths of a head teacher and her family at London's most prestigious private school. Emma Patterson was found alongside her husband and 7-year-old daughter in the grounds of Epsom College in Surrey in the early hours of Sunday. Well, Divya Kohli's been following the case. Divya, what more can you tell us?
Well, Surrey Police has now confirmed that this is a murder investigation after the bodies of Emma Patterson, the head teacher of Epsom College, her daughter Letty and husband George were found. Police were called to the school in the early hours of Sunday morning, and yesterday they said they were confident a third party was not involved. But new developments today have revealed a firearm was recovered at the scene, and that firearm was registered to George Patterson, Emma's husband. In fact, just 5 days ago, Mr. Patterson had contacted police to update the address on that weapon, and the force has now referred itself to the IOPC as a result. Emma Patterson was head teacher of Epsom College for just 5 months. She was well respected here and at her previous school. This is a case that's left people who live in the area absolutely stunned, and we're told the causes of death won't be revealed until postmortems are carried out later this week.
OK, Divya in Epsom, thank you. Some other news now. The Met Police says another serving officer has been charged with rape and assault. PC Jordan Brown, who is attached to the Central East Command Unit, is due to appear at Barkingside Magistrates Court tomorrow. The Met said the alleged offences all relate to one victim who was known to PC Brown and who has been suspended from duty. A delegation of London firefighters will be among those flying to Turkey to help in the rescue operation following a devastating earthquake. More than 5,000 people have died so far in Turkey and Syria. Well, in Tottenham Hale, a local delivery group are sending trucks loads of aids to the victims and are calling on Londoners to donate. Express Cargo aims to send full lorries of donations tomorrow and Friday. They're calling for things including sanitary pads, baby nappies, baby milk powder, blankets and winter clothing, which can be distributed to those who need it the most. 2 men have been jailed for robbing the home of Mark Cavendish. The Olympic cyclist was at home sleeping with his wife and toddler when the thieves broke in and threatened them with knives. They made off with watches worth hundreds of thousands of pounds. Sam Holder reports from Chelmsford Crown Courts.
This is the beginning of an ordeal one family will never forget. These men, wearing balaclavas and armed with a Rambo knife, are about to subject them to a terrifying robbery. Olympic cyclist Mark Cavendish and his wife Peter were asleep at their home in Essex at the time, along with their child. Mark Cavendish, who's one of cycling's most decorated stars, was dragged from bed and punched repeatedly. Peter covered her 3-year-old with a blanket to stop them from seeing. Today, 2 of those who broke in were jailed. Romario Henry, who's 31 and from Lewisham, was sentenced to 15 years. 28-year-old Ali Cisse from Kent was given 12 years. Outside court, Peter said she wanted to explain how the robbery has affected their family.
At the time, I was in the early stages of pregnancy, and the incident, of course, has had a massive impact on what should have been an incredibly happy time for us as a family. When I brought our newborn baby home, the first thing that my son said was, "I'll protect her from the bad men if they ever came back." I feel like home and what home should mean and should feel like has changed irreparably for our children.
The group were looking for Mark Cavendish's expensive Richard Mille watches. Here he can be seen wearing the brand on his Instagram page. They took 2, worth a combined £700,000. The judge said this was not a run-of-the-mill domestic burglary. It was planned, targeted, orchestrated, ruthless. The group held a knife to Mark Cavendish's throat, and they knew exactly what they wanted. 2 of the suspects still haven't been caught. Police are trying to find Joe Jobson and George Goddard.
Since the conviction, we've had new information we are developing, and I've got no doubt that at some point, hopefully soon, we'll have them both in police detention. There is only so long somebody can hide. We are going to pursue you until the nth degree. So do yourself a favour, hand yourself in.
The Cavendishes hope that after seeing the impact this has had on their children, anybody who's helped hide those responsible will come forward. Sam Holder, ITV News.
Turning to politics now, and a London MP has been given one of the Tory party's biggest jobs in the Prime Minister's latest reshuffle. Our political correspondent Simon Harris joins us from Westminster now. Simon, tell us more about this mini reshuffle.
Yes, Lucrezia. Greg Hands, the MP for Chelsea and Fulham, is the new Conservative Party chair. That effectively makes him the Cabinet Minister for election campaigns, which, if the opinion polls are right, might be seen as something of a poison chalice. He got the job after the Prime Minister sacked Nadeem Zahawi over his tax affairs. So when Mr Hands arrived at Tory Party HQ today, he faced an inevitable question.
Are your taxes in order?
Good morning, they most definitely are. Good morning, how are you?
Do you think you can win the next election?
Of course we will. We can and we will.
And Mr Hands has been a Tory MP in London for almost 20 years. Before that, he was a councillor in Hammersmith and Fulham. He faces his first big test in the local council elections in May, when voters in the home counties go to the polls. If the Tories perform badly, that's bound to lead to questions about Rishi Sunak's leadership qualities. The Prime Minister himself today was visiting a district heating centre in King's Cross, where he was keen to talk about another of his appointments. Grant Shapps, the Welwyn-Hatfield MP, has been made the Minister of a new department for energy security and net zero.
It's going to mean that we can reduce people's energy bills. That's so important. It means we can produce more energy here at home, giving us independence and security. And it means we can transition to cleaner forms of energy as we hit our net zero ambitions and create jobs in the process, as we're seeing here today.
Labour pointed out they created a similar department with a slightly different name when they were in power, but the Conservatives abolished it. Labour described today's reshuffle as another day of Tory turmoil.
All right, Simon, thank you. Coming up, the young Londoner who saved a woman's life thousands of miles away, the incredible result of a simple stem cell donation. And find out which Coronation Street star is coming to Bromley in a rock musical. But first, Londoners from black and ethnic minority groups are being urged to donate blood. Sadiq Khan held an event to raise awareness at City Hall and gave blood himself. People with black heritage are particularly needed to give blood, as black people are disproportionately affected by sickle cell disease. Well, Mamman, who suffers from the condition, told us why the issue is so important.
So people like myself who have sickle cell and who rely on large quantities of blood to stay alive. Myself, 10 to 11 units every 3 to 4 weeks. But yet we make up less than 3 to 4% of the total blood donor population in this country.
If you want to find out more about donating blood, we've got all the information on our website. Head over to itv.com/London. Now to another simple life-saving procedure. Callum Kennedy Mann from Hackney was just 16 when he signed up to be a stem cell donor. That resulted in a donation which saved a woman's life, and he's travelled to Pennsylvania in the US to meet her. Our senior correspondent Ronke Phillips has his story.
Yeah, oh, here we go. Hey, Diane.
She'd been diagnosed with 2 aggressive forms of leukemia and needed a stem cell transplant to save her life. But Diane Farrago lives in the United States in Pennsylvania and always assumed her donor was local. And then she received an email with his exact location.
It was this young student from the UK, and we were just blown away.
Yeah.
Callum Kennedy Mann was 16 when he signed up with the blood donation charity, the Anthony Nolan Trust. He'd almost forgotten about his kind deed when, out of the blue in 2019, he got a call.
I was in the middle of organising a laptop for university, so I was picking up various phone calls from various people. And in the middle of it, I had a call which I picked up, and I was not expecting it to be the call that it was. And it was from Anthony Nolan saying, "You are a match, we'd like you to do some further blood tests, and potentially you may be donating in the next few months."
The stem cells he donated were the perfect genetic match, but it would be another 2 years before he found out who the recipient was and that the transplant had worked. The pair spent time getting to know each other online, and then Diane invited Callum to the States to meet her and her family.
To see him when we picked them up at the airport,
very early, and we knew they were on a red eye, so everybody was going to be quite tired. But it felt so real, and we felt so I felt so connected.
There was a lot of kind of hugging and very emotional relatives, and I didn't really know what to do or how to reply to them.
And their story also attracted media attention from the local TV news in Pittsburgh.
Well, this Thanksgiving, a local mom is getting her chance to meet the person who saved her life.
Yeah, it was a very surreal trip in so many ways, but Diane and her family made us feel so welcome.
And for anyone considering becoming a donor but wavering, Callum has this advice.
By putting your name on that register, you can potentially make such a huge difference to someone's life. So I wouldn't hesitate to recommend it.
And in Callum's case, he hasn't just saved a life, he's found himself a friend for life too. Ronke Phillips, ITV News.
Next tonight, we meet two of the stars of the touring version of the musical Rock of Ages. And if you are a Corrie fan, you might just recognise one of them in a previous life.
Oh, and your mum approves of you taking time off work and going to London with a complete stranger.
Curly, it's my career we're talking about here.
And I'm talking about our relationship. What kind of weekend do you think I've had?
Oh, who could forget Curly Watts, played by actor Kevin Kennedy for 20 years on the soap. And I'm very pleased to say that Kevin joins us now, along with his co-star in Rock of Ages, Gabriella Williams, live from their... Well, I thought you were going to be in the dressing room. It doesn't look like the dressing room, but I know you're at the Churchill Theatre in Bromley. Guys, welcome. How are you doing?
We're doing very well, thank you very much. We're here in lovely Bromley with the Rock of Ages. Opens tonight.
I can see... Kevin, we just saw a bit of you as Curly Watts there from Corrie. It's a bit different to what you're doing now, isn't it?
Oh, chalk and cheese. I don't think Norman would like this particular show. There's too many scantily clad women and men and prolific drug taking, and it's far too loud. Yeah, but I enjoy it immensely.
It is rock and roll. Gabriella, you're a bit more recent to the acting world, aren't you? No offence to Kevin, you've been around a bit longer, but Gabriella, what's it like being on stage along with a soap legend, if you like?
It's terrible. No, it's amazing. It's lovely. We've had a fantastic time. We've had a few cast changes in the last few years, and Kev came back and joined us, and we welcomed him with open arms, didn't we?
We did.
It was lovely to have him back.
And Kevin, so are you good at singing then? Is there a rock god lurking somewhere inside you? Is that what it is?
Well, I've got form for doing a bit of singing. I think this is about my 17th musical in the last 20 years. So I can actually chirp a tune, as they say.
He's a pretty rad guitar player as well.
I play a bit of guitar, and I can sing. Yeah, I can. Yeah.
Wow. Do you do any noodling on the guitar?
I do a little bit of noodling. I usually tour it with me, but I didn't bring it with me today. But I will be sort of carrying it around the country. Mental health, you know, it's good for me.
And Kevin, you know, I've got to go back to Curly just for a little bit, but, you know, you played that part for 2 decades, didn't you? Sure. How hard has it been for you to kind of move away from it? Or is it a problem that interviewers like me just keep on asking you about Curly?
No, it's absolutely fine. I find it very humbling that people still remember that body of work. I mean, whatever you do, whether you're an artist or a poet or a musician, you want people to remember what you've done. And it's 40 years ago, I think, this year that I made my stage debut. So I've had 20 years of TV and 20 years on the boards, so it's kind of evened out nicely. So it's lovely to be able to go back to the theatre, which was always my original love. I mean, television, I didn't even think about TV when I first started, because I did a lot of stage stuff before I did TV.
Then you are back where it all started. Gabriella, Kevin, thank you so much for talking to me. I know you're on stage later tonight, so have a good one. Enjoy. Rock and roll.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Finally tonight, she's one of London's best-known and loved designers, and Stella McCartney has been awarded a CBE for her services to fashion. And Sally is here. Sally, what would you say was one of her most memorable outfits?
Oh, you flatter me by asking me. Me and fashion.
Come on.
Well, I would probably say the Olympics stuff, because I interviewed her when she did those first Olympics, so they feel quite special to me. But, I mean, you can't forget the Meghan post-wedding dress.
There you go. Let's have a look.
It's obviously beautiful. From the catwalk to the castle for Stella McCartney.
Miss Stella McCartney.
The designer was awarded a CBE at Windsor this morning for her services to fashion and sustainability.
I feel incredibly proud and honoured. Really, I mean, it's a cliche, but I do. I feel really very proud.
McCartney hopes this award will help set an example for other designers in the industry.
I think one of the main reasons I was honoured is for the sustainability that I do in fashion, and I think that part is incredibly important, that the two go hand in hand, because for me the sustainability part is probably the most important part.
The fashion designer famously created the Duchess of Sussex's wedding reception dress and Team GB's uniforms for London 2012. She's also a firm favourite with some of our biggest stars, such as Adele.
I actually dressed her when she got her honour. So I mean, Adele is amazing. What an inspiration, again, for Britain.
Today, she remembered some of the greats and paid tribute to London designer Vivienne Westwood.
She was just epic. You know, for me personally, a huge inspiration. So irreverent, massively powerful in the sustainable conversation for fashion, a real fighter. And just like she put fashion on the map, I think, for Great Britain, and so many iconic moments that she created.
Stella said her CBE was a win for British fashion, cementing London as one of the fashion capitals of the world.
Sure is. And Sally, from fashion to the forecast, wasn't it foggy this morning? I could barely see.
I know. Someone sent me a photo. There's absolutely no point in me showing it to anyone because it's just white with a very blurred person in the background. But they described it as a proper pea super. Yeah. And actually, it was a bit unnerving. We've got more fog tomorrow morning, which could actually be a little bit worse. But then hopefully it'll all come good again. Let's take a look.
ITV London weekday weather is sponsored by Octopus Electric Vehicles. Car, charger and energy.
Hello again. I hope you had a good day. A real foggy start, wasn't it? In fact, you can see these two here thinking, do we have to go in? But then the sun eventually came out and so did the hair. Some extraordinary hairstyles on those dogs. Anyway, they obviously had a nice day at the park. But we do have further widespread frost tonight and further dense fog patches in some areas lasting into tomorrow morning and lingering for a time. So it could well cause some traffic disruption and travel disruption. But then again, we should see the sunshine as we go through the day. It's still feeling quite chilly though, particularly if you're out of the sunshine and where that fog lingers. So let's take a look at the detail for you. Tonight, with that sun out of the way, clear skies, the temperatures dropping right down, another really cold night to come, widespread frost, and hopefully you can see that fog as well. So first thing tomorrow morning and overnight, that could well cause a few issues with driving. You might need to leave a bit of extra time as well to defrost a car if you're driving. It's going to get down to a few degrees below freezing, so it's going to feel really chilly first thing tomorrow. I've turned off the frost layer so you can see that fog. It is going to hang around in a few areas quite far through the morning, maybe even till lunchtime in a few spots, but afterwards we have got some lovely sunshine heading our way. Still going to feel cold, as I said, highs of 7 to 8 degrees, a bit nicer in the sunshine, but out of it feeling chilly. If you've got plans for the evening, again, staying dry with clear skies and initially some frost forming, but overnight we've got some more cloud moving in, and in fact by Thursday morning it might actually be a little bit drizzly. Thereafter, things brightening up a touch as we go through the day, all being well, and again a bit more cloud as we head through to Friday and Saturday, but the temperatures coming up a little bit. That's it. I'll see you later on. Cheerio.
ITV London weekday weather is sponsored by Octopus Electric Vehicles.
And that is all for now. We are back with the latest after ITV News at 10. Coming up, Charlene with the ITV Evening News, but from me and the rest of the London team, bye-bye.